Here we go. We've got, now that you have your green notes out, everybody has your green notes out. This is the last page of your notes. Keep in mind again that we'll probably test next week sometime. That's the plan. We're going to test next week sometime. So this is the last section. We did this section before, earlier, when we were reviewing, and so I want to go over it again and make sure that we all remember. Keep in mind how absolute values work. Remember, the absolute value of 3 is 3, right? But it turns out that the absolute value of -3 is also 3. So what that means is I could have two different end results in an absolute value that would equal the same thing. Okay? And so what that does is it doubles my solutions when I am solving. So when I'm solving an absolute value equation, I'm going to have two different answers potentially. So what I have to do is I have to look at what's inside of the absolute value, and I say that it could either be +5 or -5 inside of there to produce 5 as a result. So that makes my solutions x equals +5 and x equals -5. And likewise, in the next one, same thing. What does x have to be to come out to be +133?
+133.
Or?
-133.
Great, so x equals 133, or x equals -133. Now I have to watch out for a couple of tricky situations that might happen. And one of those tricky situations are in part C. When will an absolute value equal a negative number?
Never.
Never. This will never produce a negative number because the thing about absolute values is they always are positive. Their end results are always positive. So if the absolute value of a number comes out to be negative, we say this is no solution. So watch out for those tricky ones. Don't just be a machine. Don't think, okay, I just put -2 and then +2 down. If it comes out to be a negative value, an absolute value can never be a negative number, I have a no solution situation. Now the other tricky thing that could happen is in D, and that is, what if I have a scenario where I have some activity going on inside of there? Yep.
That would be either positive or -13.
Well, I have to be a little bit careful because I get what you're thinking, but right here, either that x minus 7 is +10 or that x minus 7 is -10. So I have to set up the two equations. Either x minus 7 is +10 or x minus 7 is -10. Absolute values double our work. Now I have to solve both of those equations. Keep in mind,
X equals X.
I have to work on both sides of the equal sign.
X
And
equals 3, and then X equals -3.
so let's solve here. What do I do to get rid of -7?
Or 17 on top.
I would add 7, right? So x is 17, and that makes sense. 17 minus 7 is 10, and the absolute value of 10 is 10, right? Or on the other side, I add 7, and what do I get?
-3.
-3. Does that make sense? -3 minus 7 is -10, and the absolute value of -10 is +10. So these did not come out as nice as the first ones, which were exact opposites. I can't always expect my answer for an absolute value once I find one, it just to be the opposite for the other. It doesn't work that way. So I'm going to have to set up those little mini equations to solve. And so that's what the rest of the problems are all about, setting up those little mini equations. So we'll have two equations. It's like double the work, remember. So talk to me. X minus 5 could be what? What are the two things x minus 5 could be in order to produce this answer 16?
21.
Don't give me the, I don't want to know what x is. I want to know what x minus 5 has to be. What does inside of here have to be in order to have an absolute value of 16? Positive 16 or negative 16. So that's how I'm going to set up my equations. X minus 5 is positive 16 or x minus 5 is negative 16. So I always start that way, thinking about what that has to equal, and then I'll go through and set it up. And again, now I have two equations, equal signs that I want to work on both sides of. How am I going to get rid of the minus 5? Opposite of subtracting 5 is? Adding 5. Yep, so x is 21. Same thing over here. But now I'm doing negative 16 plus 5. It is negative 11. Yeah, nice. So my two solutions are 21 and negative 11. A lot of times when you have more than one solution, they'll write it in this set notation, and they do with the smallest one first and then the biggest one second. You don't need to worry about that, but if you ever see a multiple choice selection, especially on your virtual day, your answers might be listed in that form. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's called set notation, and that's the solution set. All right, help me set up the next one, please. Again, thinking about what my options are. 2x plus 2x plus 5 has two possible answers that would give me 1 and negative 1. You got it. So 2x plus 5 could be 1, or 2x plus 5 could be negative 1 to produce the solution we want. Okay, so again, I've got two sides of an equal sign that I've got to work down, but I have now two-step problems where it's both added something and multiplied by something. So I start with undoing the addition, get rid of that 5. Where? On both sides. Help me out. What's 1 minus 5? Negative 4. And then I get rid of the multiplication by doing the opposite of multiplication, dividing. And I end up with my final answer here, which is negative 2. Perfect. Now I have to do part 2. Again, double the work. Absolute values give me double the work. The beauty part is the process is the same. So I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to subtract 5. It's just that now I'm subtracting it from negative 1, so I get negative 6 instead. And then I'll divide by 2, and I get negative 3 for my answer. Yep. Again, if I plug it back in here, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1, so that's good. Positive 1, absolute value would equal 1. If I put in negative 3, that would be 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1, and the absolute value of negative 1 is positive 1 as well. So both of these answers will produce that. And remember, I said double the work. Double the work unless what? Unless we get to a problem like number 10. What is wrong with number 10?
I said Jesus. 7 is so far out from that equal sign.
Yeah, not only is 7 so far out from that equal sign, but 7 also has something in front of it that makes it illegal.
Negative.
Yes.
Somebody arrest that.
Can an absolute value ever equal a negative number?
No solution.
No solution. So, double the work unless it breaks the rules. Then our work is piece o' cake. Okay, so let's go through our last one. This is the last one we're going to do on here. Again, help me set this up. Keeping in mind that what's inside of that absolute value has two different options. Either it could be what? Positive 12 Or it could be what? Negative 12. So then I set this up, negative 2x plus 7 equals positive 12. Or negative 2x plus 7 equals negative 12. Two equations, two solutions. Both of them are two-step equations. I draw my line down here. What do I do first? Minus 7. 12 minus 7 is 5. Divide by negative 2. X equals, so in a problem like this, again, I can't divide 2 into 5 evenly. So what I do is I just write it as that fraction, 5 over 2. But because the 2 was negative, the fraction is negative. And so I just stick the negative out front. So it's negative 5 over 2. That's my final answer. Not a super pretty answer, but a fine enough answer. Now I'll go through the process
again.
again.
This interruption. Just a reminder that at this time, if we could please have all juniors report to the PC, all juniors pertaining to the ACT.
You guys can ignore that
please
announcement.
release the
That means
juniors in your
nothing to you
classes
right
to
now,
the PC at this
obviously.
time.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a
Minus
great day.
7 minus 7. What do I get? Negative 2x equals, help me out here. Negative 12 minus 7.
5,
No.
negative 5.
No.
Stupid. What
Don't
is
do
negative
it.
12 plus 7.
Negative 19. There we go. Negative 19. Yeah.
Twice in this class.
Then I'll divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2.
Oh my god, Alex. I'm just
X
telling you
is,
to do that.
again,
Equals negative 19 over 2.
I can't divide it, so I'll just leave the 19 over 2. But I do know that the two negatives are going to cancel each other out, so I don't need to write those at all. Okay? So there is my final answer. That's it for the notes again. You do not have an assignment tonight, but you will do practice on this on virtual tomorrow. Okay? So be aware of that. No assignment tonight. Practice on this on virtual tomorrow.